Hello everyone, my name is Jimmy and welcome to The Last Lap. In today's video we're going to be breaking down the Las Vegas playoff race and also breaking down how the championship points look as we continue through the round of 8. But just before we do that, just want to remind you guys to hit that like button and subscribe button. We greatly appreciate it as our channel continues to grow. And you can also check out our social media pages, which are linked in the description. But without further ado, let's go ahead and hop into the episode. As always, I have my friend and co-host Matthew joining me on the show. And we have quite a big and I guess semi-controversial topic to discuss in today's video. But Matthew, how you feel based on what you saw at Las Vegas as we get ready to talk about everything that we saw today?
You would think we can go at least one day or one race without some sort of controversy happening, but it seems like the past month that's basically been impossible. I mean, we went to the calendar, 0 days without controversy after what happened today. I cannot wait to get into that because I got a lot of things to say about that.
Yeah, we'll get to that in just a moment, but I do want to quickly start off the video by talking about Kurt Busch, because he did announce that he was going to not race the rest of this season and he would not return to full-time competition starting next season. So very unfortunate. This is all obviously due to the injury he sustained, the concussion and all of that stuff. He did announce that Saturday morning that he would step away from full-time racing, so very sad and unfortunate to see that happen. He was very emotional, very choked up as he was making that announcement. But he did say that he was going to stay around 2311 Racing, help them develop their program. And it was also announced that Tyler Reddick was going to step in a year early. RCR in 2311 worked something out to where he will be able to race the number 45 car next season. So that's an exciting opportunity for him. But I did just want to quickly throw that out there about Kurt Busch. As for the race in Las Vegas, stage 1 was relatively smooth. Unfortunately, it did end in Kyle Busch spinning with 3 laps to go in the stage, and that would end the stage under caution. Bubba Wallace would win the first stage, but it looked like the Fords were pretty strong all day, especially the Penske Fords. Joey Logano finished in the top 10, and so did not William Byron, he's a Chevy driver, wow. Ryan Blaney, those two drivers finished, those two Fords finished in the top 10 there. And then stage 2 is where the main incident of the day happens. Kyle Larson was racing with Bubba Wallace. Larson went 3 wide into turn 3, and then they both cleared whoever the other car was. Larson slowly slid up the track, was trying to catch his car, unfortunately pinched Bubba Wallace into the outside wall. Bubba had a lot of damage, and then as soon as Bubba got off the wall, he came right back down the track and clearly wiped out Kyle Larson, took a hard left, hooked him in the right rear quarter panel. Kyle Larson went hard into the outside wall, who also collected Christopher Bell and ended all 3 of their days. And then Bubba Wallace, he got out of his car and slowly started walking down the racetrack towards Kyle Larson's car. And once he got to Kyle Larson, he gave him like 3 or 4 pushes to continue showing his displeasure for Kyle Larson, running him the track off of turn 4 and not giving him room, and running him in the wall and all that stuff. So all of that happened. I'll give my reaction and my opinion on what should happen going forward after I finish the race recap. But that happened in stage number 2, and then stage 2 would end. Ryan Blaney would win that. Joey Logano finished second. So like I said, the Penske Fords strong pretty much all day long. And then William Byron, he had a really good save. He hit the bumps in turn 1 and 2 and slid up the racetrack and pretty much ran into Ryan Blaney. But they were both able to save it, thankfully, and continue on. But Ryan Blaney, his day would end after a flat tire in second place. He had a flat tire, slowly went up the racetrack, hit the outside wall, and then spun down and hit the inside wall. And that would end his day, unfortunately. He had a really good run, race-winning car, arguably, and unfortunately, a flat tire took out his day. Daniel Suarez and Tyler Reddick, they got into it off of turn 4. Reddick kind of pinched Suarez, and Suarez lost control of the car. He spun out. And then there was a restart with 16 laps to go, and Chase Briscoe and Justin Haley decided to take 2 tires on that pit stop, which gave them track position, and they were on the front row. And Chase Briscoe was in the lead for a little bit, surprisingly, after he was in like the mid to late 20s all day long. Got him some track position. He was in the lead for a little bit. Ross Chastain ended up taking the lead away from him, and then Joey Logano slowly started to catch Ross Chastain. They had a really good battle for the lead, Logano and Chastain, for probably 5 to 10 laps, and Logano finally got around Ross Chastain with 3 laps to go, and he would be the driver to punch his ticket to the Championship 4, the first playoff driver to do so. So let me quickly go over the top 10 and other playoff finishers real quick. So Logano and Chastain 1-2. Kyle Busch bounced back to finish 3rd. Great run for him after he spun out and he lost a wheel and climbed back up to finish 3rd. Great run for him. Chase Briscoe, Denny Hamlin, other playoff drivers 4th and 5th. Great run for Chase Briscoe, getting that top 5 finish and getting a lot of points. Looking at the rest of the top 10, no other playoff drivers there. Allmendinger 9th, great run for him. And as we look at the other playoff drivers, William Byron finished 13th. Elliott 21st. That's pretty much where Chase Elliott ran all day long, in the low 20s, high teens, like 17th to 20th all day long, unfortunately. Ryan Blaney finished 28th, and Christopher Bell 34th after being taken out. So let me go over some quick thoughts here. The first thought, obviously, about the incident involving Bubba Wallace and Kyle Larson. Bubba Wallace, when he got out of the care center, he said, oh yeah, the steering of the car was broken, and yeah, he basically made that excuse for wrecking Kyle Larson, but everybody could tell it was intentional and he played it off. I definitely think it was intentional for him to just come down the track and wipe out Kyle Larson like that. Any kind of penalties, I mean, in my opinion, I would give him a penalty. I would, fine him, take points away, and I would suspend him for at least a race, if not 2 or 3, or the rest of the season. Even this was, he hooked him under green, and like I don't know, the video speaks for itself. Like the impact Kyle Larson had on the outside wall was absolutely ridiculous, and with the whole safety of these next gen race cars, like it should be a penalty and a suspension. I would suspend him for the rest of the year. For the last 3 races of the season, I would suspend Bubba Wallace for the rest of the season for that, because that's just uncalled for. People might throw in the William Byron thing and Denny Hamlin thing. Yes, I know William Byron wrecked Denny Hamlin under caution. I would have penalized him during the race for that. But this is completely different in my opinion. Wrecking somebody under green at full speed like that is completely unacceptable. We saw what Carl Edwards did to Brad Keselowski at Atlanta back in 2009, 10, something like that, when he just flipped Brad Keselowski. I know he at least got parked for the rest of the race. I don't remember what the other penalty was for that, if there was anything else. But NASCAR needs to step in here, especially with these safety concerns of the next-gen car, with drivers being out with concussions and all kinds of stuff. They need to step in and put their foot down and have a clear precedent for what the penalty for something like that should be, whether it's under caution, under green flag, anything like that. I do think it varies based on situations, because I don't think William Byron deserves to be suspended for 2 or 3 races or a race, but Bubba Wallace, I think he really does deserve to be suspended for at least 1 race, if not the rest of the season. But that is quickly my thought on that. And Joey Logano, he advances to the next round. I'm also look at the playoff grid to see what the other points situation is. So Logano, he punched his ticket to the next round. Chastain and Elliott are 18 and 17 above the cut line, and Denny Hamlin +6, William Byron -6, and then Ryan Blaney -11 after, unfortunately, a tire ended his day, and Christopher Bell -23. Pretty much, I'm not saying a must-win situation yet, but -23 is almost a must-win situation for him. Who else do I think will make the championship 4 based on this right here? I don't know, because as a Chase Elliott fan, I'm a little bit nervous as we head to Homestead next week, another 1.5 miles, and he really struggled at Las Vegas today. I think he will just barely survive if he, just has a decent run at Homestead and runs pretty good at Martinsville. As for anybody else, I don't really know. I mean, Denny Hamlin, he has a pretty good chance. William Byron, he has a chance. Ross Chastain, obviously +18 right now. And then you got Ryan Blaney, who was really good today, and Christopher Bell, who's been pretty good all playoffs long, who can win like he did at the Roval and punch his ticket to the Final 4. So I don't really know. It's going to be a toss-up, in my opinion, to see who the other 3 drivers are to join Joey Logano. But yeah, that's pretty much gonna wrap up my thoughts about everything that happened today. Matthew, what do you have to say about what you saw today from Las Vegas?
Alright, so before I get into the actual race itself, I do want to clarify about Kurt Busch retiring. Well, I wouldn't say retire, because he did clarify that he does want to continue racing after he's cleared. Maybe not, maybe do some other motorsports around the world, he said. Maybe even some key NASCAR races. Maybe the Daytona 500 in the future or something like that. But, I mean, it's going to be sad to see, you know, one of the Busch brothers not in the Cup Series. And, I mean, and also, he's the last driver to race with the GOAT, Dale Earnhardt. I mean, I remember he raced against him in 2001 Daytona 500, and Kurt Busch got his welcome to the sport moment when Dale Sr. gave him the bird. And, that was basically a welcome to the sport for him. And I mean, he's had a journey of a career. I mean, he was in Roush, won the championship and the inaugural chase. Then he went to Penske. He had some success there until that fizzled out, as his temperament was a problem for him, especially when he was young. Then once he lost that Penske ride, he went solo basically in an underfunded team that he was able to basically outrun that equipment. And then he got another chance with Furniture Row, another single team, which we know how the story goes for that organization, rising to the top. And that started with Kurt Busch. And then he went to Stewart-Haas Racing, which was basically his second chance. Basically, after that top team Penske, he was able to get a second chance at a big team. And he was able to win every year and make the playoffs. Every year he was at SHR. Then he went to Chip Ganassi Racing, was there for a couple years, won every year there, made the playoffs. And then this year he went to 2311, he won there. Unfortunately, he could not be in the playoffs because of that injury. So, I mean, I'm gonna miss him, and I hope you know he does. I'm glad he's still gonna be able to be around NASCAR though, as he'll still be with 2311. So, okay, so getting into the actual race, we all know the big story that happened here. Bubba Wallace gets in the wall and then retaliates to Kyle Larson. All right, so should Bubba Wallace be mad that he got put in the wall? Yes, because Kyle Larson did put him in the wall. Is it fine to show your anger? You know, if you felt like you got spun out or got put in the wall? Yes, we see it all the time. But the way he did it was absolutely unacceptable. And this should absolutely deserve a suspension. And this is the perfect time for NASCAR to finally, you know, look, I don't want NASCAR to start becoming like Formula One, and every incident that happens, you're like, oh, you get a penalty for that. You get a lap down for that. You get sent to the back for that. I don't want to become like that. Trust me. We all don't want that to happen, but it's when it comes to purposely getting into someone, purposely wrecking someone, purposely spinning out someone, there needs to be a black and white rule. Because they got all the SMT data that they need to show that, hey, they definitely were full throttle wanting to spin that person out or wreck that person. And this was clear as day that Bubba Wallace spun Kyle Larson basically. And I mean, it's a shame, you know, because I've been a Bubba Wallace fan for a long time, especially when he was in the Kyle Busch Motorsport days. And I know he has a lot of pressure on him. I mean, they've shown a lot of times how Bubba Wallace always has a lot of pressure. But he has a tendency to, you know, absolutely lose his cool. If you remember 2019, twice that year actually, Watkins Glen, he purposely spun Kyle Busch on the middle of the front stretch at Watkins Glen. And then the Roval that same year, Alex Bowman purposely spun Bubba Wallace that race Now, after the race, when Alex Bowman was pretty much dehydrated, Bubba Wallace sprayed Gatorade, water, whatever it was, on his face. And then, yeah, but, I mean, this was absolutely uncalled for. And, I mean, I hate that it happened to him, but, you know, he did that himself. I mean, he absolutely lost his cool. And NASCAR, I mean, they gotta make this a black and white rule here. You purposely wreck someone, you're automatically getting a suspension. I don't care if that car is damaged or not, you're getting suspended, because that's no longer going to be tolerated. Especially with these cars right now. Of course, they have the changes ready for next year. They already shown it. But as of right now, we still got 3 races left now. And you just have to be careful, man. Like, I mean, Bubba Wallace was one of the drivers who got involved in the big hits like at Talladega, Atlanta, Daytona. And he was all like, man, NASCAR, you gotta fix these cars. I can't believe that. That was the hardest hit I ever had. But then you do that. And you cause Larson to hit that wall hard. And yourself hit that wall hard. So that's a little bit, I mean, I guess he didn't think about that during the heat of the moment, I guess. But, you would think, but I mean, it's just a darn shame that had to happen. But you know, he absolutely lost his cool, and you know, I know he's always been a polarizing driver, mainly because of things that happen outside of track, which we won't get into for controversial reasons. But now there might be a good reason for people not like to cheer for him now, because of that incident right there. That's gonna stay with him for the rest of his career, just like how the Dale Jr. Kyle Busch incident stayed with Kyle Busch's career, just like how Joe Logano and the Matt Kenseth incident stands with Joe Logano's career. This incident's gonna be right on his resume when they look up Bubba Wallace, and I mean, it's a darn shame. And you know, props to Larson. Larson was extremely chill. Like, I think he was a little too calm for this situation. If you purposely spun me on the fastest part of the racetrack, and then you think you're just gonna walk up there and push me like that? Nah, we throwing hands. No, I'm not letting that slide. But yeah, my Larson was really chill about it. But yeah, I mean, good thing in a couple weeks we're gonna be in Martinsville and we're gonna hear drivers' introductions, and it's gonna be a lot of reaction there when Bubba Wallace gets introduced. And maybe Martinsville, Larson might have something waiting for him. You never know. I mean, Larson doesn't seem to be that type of guy, but I said the same thing about William Byron, but that happened in Texas. But the decision that NASCAR makes with a penalty this week, it's going to be controversial either way, because they're going to automatically compare it to the Byron Hamlin incident in the playoffs this year at Texas. Even though those circumstances, both drivers had their cars clean, basically. They didn't like wreck total, but it was under caution, which that is a safety hazard, especially when you have people walking around, safety vehicles walking around. That is a safety hazard. But you know, that penalty was, you know, it was basically a slap on the wrist, you know, after we went through appeals, which I do not agree at all. That was ridiculous. But whatever the decision they make with Bubba Wallace, they're going to compare to that incident. So NASCAR put themselves there, though, because they have an appeal system that is so flawed that they decide to, you know, give drivers a slap on the wrist for taking people out. So, yeah. It should be an absolute one race suspension. This should be a new message for NASCAR, for all drivers. Now, if you purposely wreck someone, and we look at the SMT data and we see you throttle up wrecking someone, we're suspending you. So that's how it should be. No, there's no more of this, you know, fine line. There's none of this, you know, oh, but he actually had a problem. Oh well, You know, this should not be tolerated anymore, especially we're in a new generation of drivers. Now, they just don't care anymore. They will take you out if they feel like it. I mean, we've seen it all the time, especially this year, it seems like, from all 3 series. So there has to be a new fine line. A new rule, basically. But anyways, besides that, great race. No tire drama for once, and I mean, Joe Logano was able to basically pass Ross Chastain in a clutch move and advance his way to the championship 4. So congrats to him. He has been a real quiet playoff driver, I'll say, during this playoffs. He hasn't been, the dominant car, but he's always been up there, it seems like, with no issues. So good for him. Ross Chastain finished 2nd. He was really good today. I mean, I put him in my championship 4 for a reason. People thought I was crazy because he thought he would get taken out by Denny Hamlin by now, but apparently not. He's in a good spot to get in that final 4. So hopefully Ross stays there. So I get at least one prediction right. The Toyotas, I mean, they were good, but maybe not they weren't the best car. Penske was by far the best team this weekend, and Ford. I mean, Chase Briscoe was so good today. Okay, I wouldn't say so good because he was not good at the beginning, but they were able to work on that car. They were able to get themselves in the top 15, then the top 10, then the top 5. And he was actually the lead at one point. He really is the underdog in these playoffs. And he's surprising everyone. 4 straight top 10s now. So, and good job to Chase Briscoe. I almost call him Chris Briscoe. I do feel bad for Christopher Bell. That's one thing I forgot about that whole incident was Bubba Wallace just took out a Toyota driver in the playoffs. And, I mean, that hurts even more because Christopher Bell, in my opinion, should be in the championship 4 just based on how he's ran the second half of the season. But, looks like he's going to be in the same situation as the Roval again, it seems like. I mean, I wouldn't say that 23 points is not a must-win, but he's going to run good next week now. So, yeah, that's really unfortunate. And I have no idea what in the world happened to Chase Elliott. I mean, he said he struggled. He was awful. He was awful. I mean, surprisingly, they didn't really show him a lot on TV, but when he does, he was still like in 20th. Like, he didn't move up at all. We thought, at least, Alan Guffinson would be able to adjust that car well. They didn't move anywhere. They fell back to the point that Cole Custer was actually faster than him. So, I mean, I'm not feeling good about his chances, especially since he has Homestead, Miami next, which is a different mile and a half compared to Vegas in terms of shape and the different lanes, especially that high line at Homestead. But they got to get something together here because I wouldn't put all their eggs in the basket in Martinsville, especially how bad that race was, where track position was so key. So, yeah, it's not a good start again. At least it didn't wreck out this first race, but it still wasn't good. And I have no idea how in the world Kyle Busch finished 3rd after all the bad luck he could think of again. Somehow he finished 3rd. So, I mean, it doesn't really matter much to me now. I mean, he's not in the playoffs. I'm just ready for him to go to RCR next year. So, yeah. But overall, amazing race. Yeah. I've said all I said about this race.
Alright, well, now we're going to rate this race and go over our fancy points before we finish this episode out. And for me, I don't really know what to rate it. I think I'll rate it like a 7 out of 10. Sure, I'll rate it a 7 out of 10. The racing was pretty good. You could run the high line, the low line. I'm not going to factor the Bubba and Kyle Larson incident in there because obviously, big things like that shouldn't affect the rating. I'm just going to base it pretty much off the racing I saw on the track today, so I'll give it a 7 out of 10. Matthew, what are you going to rate this race?
I'm actually going to be a little higher on this one. I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10 because I saw amazing racing. The bottom lane, the high lane were all pretty much, the bottom lane, high lane were pretty much useful for passing. We saw amazing side-by-side racing. No tire drama, which actually helps the score here. No Goodyear, none of these trash tire problems. So, 9 out of 10 for me.
Wow, that's a pretty high rating. I'm surprised that you rated it that high. But also, as we look into our fantasy points, you had a really good week. You beat me 161 to 146 this week, and it was a pretty big swing in the points. So now you're actually in the lead by 6 points as we head into Homestead next week. So props to you for a good week with your fantasy, and yeah, it's going to be a close battle all the way through Phoenix. But do you have any other closing thoughts before we go ahead and finish this episode out?
I do want to give one shout out from the Xfinity race. Hailie Deegan made her Xfinity Series debut. There was definitely some people hesitant about this because of how she's not been good at all in the trucks. Only 3 top 10s in 2 years, which is not good. But she actually was pretty decent, I'll say. She actually finished 13th in her Xfinity Series debut. And it's not like she was in a top car either. She was in the 07 car, which was a team that has some support from SHR, but I don't know if it was a fully supported ride for this race. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it was actually a pretty decent finish for her. I think these Xfinity cars might be better for her to drive than the Truck Series because the trucks in Xfinity just handle way different. I think the Xfinity cars, they are way faster and they pretty much handle way differently. They're really wild to handle. So I think Hailie Deegan might be much better in Xfinity than truck. But I guess we'll see if she makes more Xfinity starts.
Yeah, that was a really good, impressive initial start for Hailie Deegan, and Ford did say that they do want to have her race in NASCAR next season. They just aren't sure where that's going to be just yet, whether it's trucks, Xfinity, or something. But yeah, hopefully if she does get an Xfinity ride, she can have a pretty decent team and be able to have some good runs. So it was a great debut for her. But yeah, that's going to wrap it up for our video talking about Phoenix. Let us know your thoughts in the comments down below. Make sure you guys... Phoenix? I pulled a Chase Elliott. I guess I'm so excited for Phoenix. But anyways.
That's the education right there, America.
Hope you guys enjoyed the video talking about Las Vegas. And we're talking about Homestead next week. But yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed. Make sure you guys stay tuned to our social media channels for updates. But until next time, we'll see you guys in the next video.